Hello, I'm Alexandra from largefamilymama.com, and today I'm doing another knitting tutorial. And if you've been following along with the series, then you would have seen that we started off with finger knitting, and then we moved on to 4-finger knitting, and then we learned how to do a knit stitch, casting on and casting off. In the last lesson we learned how to actually shape our knitting by increasing and decreasing the stitches, and today we're going to learn how to do a purl stitch. And I've specifically designed these videos so that they are for beginners, and they are for people especially that want to be able to teach their children how to knit. Because I'm a homeschool mum, we use knitting as a part of our handicrafts curriculum. So that's why I've designed these lessons. And with each of the lessons I always give you a project to do at the end. You can either do it yourself just to practice what you've learnt, or you can do it with your children or get your children to watch the videos and see if they can do it. So today's project is going to be a washcloth, or you could use it as a dishcloth. And for this project it's a really good idea if you can use 100% cotton yarn or something similar. So I'm using a medium weight yarn, so a DK yarn or a double knit yarn, and I'm using 4mm needles, but you can adjust all those things as to what you want. So for this project I'm using this yarn, which is 100% cotton, and it's just plain white. And it's in a medium weight, a DK yarn, and I'm using 4mm needles. If you're getting children to knit, then you probably don't want to use needles this long because they have much shorter arms than you, and this can be very difficult for children to use. So I will link below some good quality children's needles that are a bit shorter. So you just make a circle with your yarn like so, and then you just put the yarn underneath in the middle of the circle like that. You get your needle and you put it under the line in the middle, and then you grab both ends of the yarn and gently pull, and then just slide the slip stitch up to the needle. So we need to cast on 40 stitches, which is quite a lot, but that's how many you need for this project. So this project might take you quite a long time. It depends how fast you can knit, but obviously the more you practice the faster you will be. So right, let me just start that again. So to cast on, I don't know if you remember from last week, you put the needle into your loop on the left hand needle, then you bring the yarn round between both the needles, pull it forwards, hold it onto the right hand needle, push the needle down and hook the yarn onto the right hand needle, and then the loop that you have on the right hand needle you want to put back onto the left hand needle. So now you have 2 stitches, and you just keep doing that until you have got to 40 stitches. Okay, so now we have 40 stitches on our needle. We are going to use a combination of knit stitch, which we already know, and purl stitch, which is the new stitch that we're learning this week. So when we use both of these stitches together in the way that we're going to use them, this will be actually called seed stitch. So I will show you what that means. So first of all we're going to knit a stitch. Now we want to purl a stitch. So we bring our yarn forwards between both the needles before we start our purl stitch, and then instead of going into our loop like we usually do that way, we want to take the needle and put it through that way. Okay, so you're not going up, you're putting your needle in that way. Then you wrap the yarn round, hook it onto your right needle and take this stitch off. So that's your purl stitch. And what we're going to do is we're going to knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one all the way to the end. So now we want to do a knit stitch, so we have to put our yarn to the back between the needles. If you go over that way, that will ruin what you're trying to do. So you have to go between both the needles. And once it's at the back, you can do your knit stitch, and then you have to bring it forward to do the purl stitch. So in that way. So you're going from that way. Yep, wrap the yarn round, pull it onto your right hand needle, take it off the left. Then put the yarn to the back, knit, yarn forward, and then purl. Remember, not going up that way. No, we want to go this way. Yarn round, and then take it off that needle. Yarn to the back to knit, yarn forward to purl, and just keep doing that all the way to the end. And then, because we have an even number of stitches and we started with a knit stitch, we are going to end our row with a purl stitch. So now if your knitting looks a bit like that, then you can just twist it round so it's all round the right way. And then we're ready to do our next row. So we started our first row with a knit stitch, and we're going to do start the second row with a purl stitch. So we're going to go in this way, pull the yarn round the needle, pull the yarn onto that needle there, and then take the stitch off the left hand needle. Now we want to do a knit stitch, so we're going to pull the yarn to the back, and so this time of course we're going to end with a knit stitch. So now we've completed 2 rows. This is how it looks. And now, because we started the last row with a purl, we're going to start this row with a knit. So whatever you ended with, do you remember we just ended with a knit there? That's what you start with. So knit, purl, and we're just going to keep doing this until we have roughly made a square. So I'm going to carry on doing this until I have finished my square, and then I will come back to you and show you what to do. So now I've knitted a few rows, you can really begin to see what the seed stitch looks like, and it's a really beautiful stitch, I think. And it's a great one to use for dishcloths or washcloths or anything that you want to lie flat, because it doesn't curl up at the edges. If you use a different kind of stitch, then it will usually curl up at the edges and it will never lie flat or look very neat. But this, using a seed stitch, it will all lie perfectly flat. Also, I just wanted to say that this project will probably take you quite a long time if you're a beginner and this is the first time you've ever used purl stitch or seed stitch. So maybe you just want to do a row at a time and then put it down and come back to it later. And you might forget what you need to do next, whether you need to start with a purl or a knit. So I can just show you now how you can find that out. So what you can see here is you have one stitch that has a loop around there, like a scarf around its neck, and then the stitch next to it is like, it goes into a V. Okay, so when you have a stitch that has the scarf around the neck, that means you need to knit that stitch, and the one that has a V, you need to purl that stitch. So if you can't tell what stitch that is at the beginning, because you know you can't tell whether that's got a scarf around the neck or a V, then you can just go back to one that you can easily see and then think, right, okay, so that's one that I need to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So you know this row you need to start with a purl. So now I have knitted a square, and it's easy to test when you've done enough because your sides will match. So when you fold it into a triangle, you can easily see that's a square, or you could measure the sides or just eyeball it, whatever. So now we've done that, and that's taken me about 2 hours. So once your knitting is up to speed, this is quite a quick project to do. But when you're a beginner, obviously it will take a lot longer. So you could just do maybe half an hour a day, or just do one row at a time and have a break between, whatever's best for you. If you used more chunky yarn and bigger, thicker needles, then you could make a scarf with this pattern, or you could make a blanket, or whatever you want. But today we're just making a nice washcloth. So now we just need to cast off, and I'll just show you how to do that in case you can't remember from last week. So you knit a stitch, then you knit another one, and then you pull the stitch that's furthest away from the point over the other stitch and off the needle. Knit a stitch, so you've got 2 on your right hand needle. Take the stitch that's furthest away from the point of the needle and pull it over the other stitch and off the needle. And keep doing that till you get to the end. And now all your stitches are off the left hand needle, so you just pull that one a bit looser. Then you need to cut the end. Put it through the loop and pull it tight. And now we just need to trim our ends. This is where I joined a new piece on. That's where I started, that's where I finished. So we're going to trim those ends and just weave them in. As you can see, the knitting lies really flat, nothing curls up, no edges curl up, none of the corners curl up. So it's the perfect stitch for blankets and washcloths and anything like that you want to be flat. And there is our finished washcloth. It's quite a small one, but I think that's fine. You can definitely make them bigger if you want to. But I think that looks great. Let me know if you have any questions about it in the comments below, or any other knitting questions that you want to know the answers to. Let me know in the comments below and I shall try to help you. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and that you make beautiful washcloths or dishcloths, and I would love to see pictures of them. If you post them on Instagram, then please use the hashtag largefamilymama.knitting, and I will check them out and see what you've been up to. So make sure you're definitely subscribed so that you can catch the lesson next week and find out what project we'll be doing next week. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye.